Today, I'm going to share with you the absolute fundamentals of small business marketing. These are the exact same strategies that I've used in my own business to go from struggling to consistently generating new leads and new business in my own business. Hi, I'm Victor Thomas, owner of Thomas Digital, and I help small businesses with their website and marketing. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I share tips and advice on marketing for small businesses that you won't find anywhere else. So if you own or run a small business, then I have news for you, because basically you have two jobs. You have job number one, which is delivering the service or product that you deliver. That's your main business. And then you have job number two, which is to market that business. And those are two completely different jobs. Most small business owners think that they really just have to worry about delivering the service or product that they offer, doing a great job, and that business will take care of itself. Well, the marketing of your business is a completely different set of skills that just might not come naturally to someone if that's not something you studied. So today we're going to go in detail on the main fundamentals that you need to work on for your small business to help bring in new leads and new business. So let me walk you through the fundamentals of marketing your small business. Step number one is to define your market. So the biggest problem a lot of people make is they just try and say that, they work with all different kinds of people. They want to keep their options as open as possible. So, for example, a real estate agent would say, they work with buyers and sellers on the north and south side of town, but also in the east and west. They specialize in houses and condos and land. You get the idea. They just want to get as many people as they can into their business. And that's usually the biggest mistake. So what you really want to do is narrow down a specific market of people. If you think about the word marketing, it has the word market in it, and it's very important that you define that market. The more crystal clear you can get exactly about the type of customers you work with, the type of businesses that are most profitable to you or the easiest for you to do, you can find them more easily, you can target them more easily, you can speak to their needs, and just it's like getting a magnet and really pulling the exact people that you want into your business. There's a really direct correlation between how much money you make and how specialized you are in your industry. If you're a doctor and you're a general practitioner, you don't make nearly as much money as if you're a brain surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon. And the reason is because the more generalized your knowledge, the less money you make and the harder it is to do business. So step number one, define your market and find a specific group of people, a specific segment within your business that's the most profitable, the most desirable, the one that you really want to go after, and only target that. It's scary. You'll want to just kind of say yes to everyone, but that's really the first step, is defining a key market segment. So step number two is to have an offer. And so the key here when it comes to business, you think about all the different businesses that are out there. It's hard to differentiate yourself. You have so many competitors. Why is anyone going to work with you, right? That's the key thing you want to ask yourself. Why would anyone do business with your business? And usually the best answer is just a good offer, like a killer offer. And it doesn't have to be rocket science. Like Domino's Pizza built its whole business on one offer, which was 30 minutes or it's free. Get your pizza in 30 minutes or you don't have to pay for it. Or Enterprise Rent-A-Car. There were already a million rental cars at the time. And so the one offer they had was, we'll pick you up for free. We'll pick you up from your home. You don't have to hire a taxi, and and that was their whole business, was that one offer. Or FedEx was like, when you absolutely positively need it on time. That was their one offer. And it was that one idea that was the thing that got them. Now, let me give you a couple hints about your offer. You want to make the offer almost scary to you, where you're like, oh man, I don't know if I should be giving that because it could hurt. You want it to have some teeth to it. Like it's a real strong offer where people would go like, oh wow, that's a good deal. And you want it to be simple. It does not need to be rocket science. It doesn't need to be super complex. In fact, the simpler the better. 30 minutes or it's free, pretty simple to understand. But you have to imagine when they were putting that offer out there, they didn't know if it was going to work. Probably a little scary. So that's what you need. You need a hook to hang your hat on, to hang everyone else's hat, like their idea of like, who is this business? What do they do? And you want a very strong, very compelling offer for your business. And here's another hint. use the word free. People love free. If you can think of an offer that includes something that's free, that's a great idea. So think of a compelling offer and have a key offer. When in all of your marketing material, all your messages, every brochure, flyer, postcard, email marketing, whatever, you're selling your offer. You're not really selling your services, you're selling the offer, and it's much easier to do, and it's much easier to get someone to take action when they have a very low risk or very enticing offer to take. Step number 3 is to build an email list. So there's a million marketing channels out there. There's like Facebook, there's different social media channels, there's different advertising platforms. But the problem is any one of those could go away at any instant, and effectively they control your herd of customers, your pool of people that you can target. But the one thing that will never go away is an email address. So if you can collect as many emails as you can, that's a huge advantage. It's something that you can build over time. You know, of the people coming to your website, about 95% of the people are just not ready to buy no matter what. Like there's nothing you could do to make them buy your thing, but a good 30% will buy. They'll buy in the next 6 months. And so what you need to do is you need to get that person's email address into your list so that when they are ready to buy, when they are ready to make a decision, you already have a relationship with them. They trust you, they know you, they like you, they feel good about you, and now they're more likely to take action. So what you need is what's called a lead magnet. Anywhere you can, you're essentially offering them something, a PDF, a report, a white paper, a video, anything that you're exchanging for your email address. It's called an ethical bribe, and you're just saying, here, give me this, and I'll give you, give me your email address, and I'll give you this free thing. It can be very small. And that'll help you build your list. And then once you have that list, you want to communicate to that list, which we'll get into. Step number 4, have a website. So I'm kind of listing these in order of like what should come first and second, and you really need an offer and a way of getting a list before you get a website. You know, when the Wright brothers were building the airplane, the way they were able to do it when no one else was is at that time, everyone was focused on the engine. They thought if they could just get a strong enough engine, they could get the airplane to fly. And the Wright brothers had the opposite idea. All they focused on was getting the airplane as light as possible, and then they could put a little motor on it, and that would have it glide and fly in the air. And so like your offer, the ability to get people to convert, that's all the airplane, that's the glider. And then your website is like communicating it. And then really when you start paying for traffic and things like that, that's the big heavy engine. But the main thing you want to do is get that offer right. So once you have that down, you want a website, and you want to be able to communicate to people via your website. But your website is a lead generation and a lead conversion tool. It should be there to generate leads. It's not just a brochure that you should feel good about. It's meant to convert people. And in order to be able to do that, you need the things that we just talked about beforehand. Step number 5 is direct outreach. So we're kind of going incrementally, almost as though you're starting from absolute scratch. You know, number 1, you want to know the market. You want to know, have an offer. You want a way to collect people's email addresses. You want a website so you can tie that all together. And so now, you know, a lot of people will get to that step. They'll have a website. They'll have something, some kind of an offer. And then they're just sitting there and they're not knowing what to do next, right? How do we get people to come to that website? So most people have one of two things when they're starting a business. They either have time or they have money. And so if you don't have a lot of money, but you have extra time on your hand, then what you want to do is what's called direct outreach. So you want to reach out directly to anyone that you can to get people to come to your site. There's a lot of different ways to do that. In fact, we've done videos on the subject, but basically what you're trying to do is trade your time for money. Now that could be online via direct outreach email. It could be cold calling, knocking on doors, sending out flyers, anything that involves your time in exchange for getting leads through the door. And it's a real kind of block and tackle way of starting your business. But when you have no money and you need to get leads, that's a perfectly acceptable way to do it. That's how I did it. And essentially you want to reach out to people, and then you want the call to action to be your offer, and then come to your website so they can learn more about your offer, get on the email list, and start building those leads. So that's the next step, is direct outreach. Step number 6 is long-term content writing. Now, what do I mean by long-term content writing? Well, a lot of people, when they kind of write stuff, especially on their blog or whatever, they get discouraged. They'll write like 3 or 4 blog posts, and then boom, they'll just get tired of it and they'll never write again. And so, the story I want to tell with you is basically I was writing content for my site, and this was, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And, there's a blog post that I wrote 8 or 9 years ago called The 6 Dumbest Mistakes Smart People Make When Hiring a Website Designer. And it still ranks #1 on Google today for like website designer. It's at least somewhere on page 1. And it's something I wrote years ago. But the flip side of that is it did not get any traffic for the first 5 years. Right? So it's just a long-term investment. Don't think of it as something that is going to bring in traffic right now, because it's not. But it's one of those things that if you can write consistently really good, high-quality content on your website, one day it will pay off. There's a great book called They Ask, You Answer. It really gives the framework of what to do. Essentially, what you're trying to do is answer the questions that are out there in the market. There's plenty of places that do that. Even if you just type into Google and type in any of the search terms that you think are relevant to your industry or niche, you'll see within the search results, it'll actually have suggested questions that relate to it. And so if you just write articles on those topics, like that would qualify as like high quality content. But start now. They have an old saying, which is the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant a tree is today. And so start writing that content today, because in the next 10 whatever years, it'll all pay off and it'll really be worth it for you. So step 7, the next step is to get found and to increase your business's footprint. And so what do I mean by that? So basically, there's directories out there. There's ones that you already know about. So there's like Google My Business, there's Yelp, there's the Better Business Bureau, but there's like a million others. And so essentially what you want to do is have your business listed in as many places as possible. There's other companies out there like Yext or Moz Local that will do it for you. It's like $200-300. But if you have the time, do it yourself. But whatever you do, just essentially the internet in general, as a general rule, is a bit like playing the lottery, in the sense that the more tickets you have, the better chance you have of winning. So the bigger your footprint, the more places that your business is located and other people can find you, the better chance you have of being found. And so, this next step is to just get your place listed in as many different places as possible. It is a numbers game after all, and you want to have as many numbers out there in your benefit. Step number 8 is to have a regular newsletter. So if you remember way back before, we talked about building a list, and that's very important. So once you have that list, you want to gain rapport, build trust with people over time, and the way you do that is through a newsletter. And so when you're building a newsletter, you're really trying to communicate to people, you're trying to add value, build trust, tell a story, get people engaged. Really think about from their perspective. If you were receiving this email, would you open it? Would you read it? Is this something of interest to you? And a great kind of piece of advice I would give to you is like a lot of the great copywriters will look at magazines like Cosmopolitan magazine. And if you just look at like cosmopolitan.com, they get a bunch of traffic, and they're great at coming up with really clever headlines. So what you can do is just like find a really clever headline on a Cosmopolitan or something like that, and repurpose it for your industry. 9 ways to get beach ready by whatever. You can turn it into 9 ways to hire the best contractor or what have you, and come up with something that's engaging. But the key is consistency. Don't just write 1 or 2 and then stop. You want to consistently communicate to people over time. It takes a while. Sometimes people have to hear from you a few times before they get enough trust, or just when they're ready. So keep that newsletter going. It's money in the bank, and it'll help you long term with your business's marketing. So step number 9 is add value. So the first steps I've given you are much more kind of block and tackle, tactical advice in terms of like do this, do this, do this. The last 2, this one and the next one, are really kind of strategic and kind of big picture kind of ways you should think about your life and your business. And so this one here, very, very important, is just add value. Wherever you go, think about how you can add value into other people's lives. And specifically, I mean like most people have problems, and your business is there to solve that problem. And so you have to think about it, even if it's giving advice, if it's pointing people in the right direction, if it's not with you, but always think from the perspective of how can you add value. When you're writing content, when you're writing newsletters, when you're doing anything, how can you look at the problem that the other person might be having and you could be a benefit to their life. There's something about generosity and just kind of being open and not being too concerned about like your money and where's it all going to come. You know, if you just stop and think about, okay, so how can I help this person and find out like what their actual problems are and try and solve that problem and not really worry about the outcome based off of that. There's something magical that kind of happens with that where you become like a bigger person, and it really does help. So I will tell you, you know, from my own perspective, just kind of thinking from that way was a bit of a game changer for me, and I would highly recommend it. So that's my step number 9, is just like think about how can you add value in people's lives, focus on that as the primary thing, and kind of don't worry about like your end of it, and just kind of, you know, the more you give, the more you get kind of thing. And step number 10 is don't reinvent the wheel. So again, we're talking about big ideas, we're talking about strategy here, and you know, kind of one of the best things that you can do is just not reinvent the wheel. So there's this quote that Steve Jobs said, which he was quoting from Pablo Picasso, which is good artists copy, great artists steal. And so that's how you kind of want to think. You want to, you know, find out what's already working and work from that. Not at all suggesting you copy, like in the sense that you literally like plagiarize or rip people off. Funny true story, I've had like 47 different websites actually literally copy my exact offer and what have you, and I'm not suggesting that. In fact, that's probably not what you should do. But what I am suggesting is, in terms of your price, your offer structure, keywords to target, number of pages to have, types of services that you offer, you know, just kind of a general flow, business offer, like where you would advertise. Those are all things that have been done. They've been discovered. You know, you don't have to, if you're a plumber, you don't have, it's not rocket science. There's plumbers out there. They've already had successful businesses. You find the most successful ones. That's kind of key number 1. And then you see like, okay, where are they advertising? What are the keywords they're bidding on? What does their website look like? What are the main services they're offering? You can do all of that. That's not stealing. I mean, in the bad sense, you know what I mean? Like you can start from like a basis. What you don't want to do is, especially if like other people have gone before you and paid good money and figured all this stuff out, you don't want to have to like reinvent that wheel. So as a general meta concept, always look at other people. You know, Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, richest man in the world, he was like arrested in Brazil for like measuring the floor to see how wide the aisles were, because everywhere he went, he wanted to see what his competitors were doing, if there's anything that he could learn from him. And like, that's just a philosophy that you want to have. So look at other people, see what they're doing, what can you learn? Again, Sam Walton was said, he spent more time in his competitors' stores than he spent in his own stores. And so that's, you know, you want to see who's out there, what they're doing, and what you can learn from that as a general rule. So there you have it. That is my Small Business Marketing 101. Those are the fundamentals for marketing your small business, at least in my opinion. So tell me what you think. Which advice are you going to implement in your own business? Please let me know in the comments. Also, if there's anything else I left out, let me know as well. I would love to hear from you. And thanks again. This is Victor Thomas from Thomas Digital. I'll talk to you soon.